Hello, hi all, and welcome to this module's recorded lecture. Today I'm going to be talking about introductions and conclusions. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, just like how we want our intros and conclusions to be. So let's jump right in. So the overall structure in our speeches is going to have three main parts. We'll have our introduction, our body, and our conclusion. And specifically, I'm going to focus on that beginning and end, the introduction and the conclusion. And let's start from the beginning with our introductions. So why do we need to have them? They serve multiple purposes and they're really important in our speech and in any type of communications, like written communication, an essay, a book, you need an introduction. So in our speeches, our introductions allow us and our audience to ease into our speech so it doesn't feel abrupt. We're jumping right into heavy concepts. We're starting off slow, we're gaining speed. This is also an opportunity to engage the audience and to entice them into listening into your speech. We also want to use our introduction to establish credibility, specifically our speaker credibility. So explaining both implicitly and explicitly how we are credible to talk about whatever our speech topic is, why our audience should trust us with this knowledge that we're about to share. And then lastly, we want to preview what our speech is about. So it serves a lot of different functions, a lot of purposes, and we're going to do that in 4 steps. So we're first going to start by getting our audience's attention. Maybe you've heard of this as a hook in writing classes. In the module and in the readings, there's lots of different techniques of how to do this. Then we want to introduce our topic and just give our audience a sense of what are we going to be talking about, big picture. Then we're going to state specifically our speaker credibility. Oftentimes students see this credibility statement is what we call it often, and they'll think this is where I put in my credible source, my scholarly source. It's not the case. Here you want to talk about yourself. What is your relationship to the topic? Is it something that you've studied before? Is it something that you have personal experience with? Is it something that you've always been interested in? Or is it a topic that you chose because you were curious and you did research and now you know more about? Any and all of those are totally fine. You just want to make whatever your relationship is to the topic clear to the audience. And lastly, we want to end with our thesis statement. And a thesis statement, as we learned previously in a previous module, is a 1-sentence summary of our speech. It should include our topic and a preview of each main point in the order that they will be occurring in our speech. So with that, it's a lot of ground to cover. We've got 4 things to do. What are some tips on how to make a successful introduction? The first tip I have is to make sure that it's short. So each one of these 4 elements, keep them 1 to 2 sentences each, max. So for your attention getter, this is where a lot of students will spend a lot of time. Try to keep your attention getter 1 to 2 sentences. Introducing your topic, 1 to 2 sentence. State credibility, 1 to 2 sentence. And then their thesis should be able to be 1 sentence. So ideally, our introduction should be 7 sentences max. And because it's only 7 sentences, that means it's going to be pretty short time-wise. So we want to aim for 30 to 45 seconds, which really is not that long. But if our speech is around 5 minutes, we want to spend most of our time in our speech actually talking about our speech, right? Talking about our main points. That's the core of our speech. So we want to get there as quickly as possible. And my last tip, we're not going to be memorizing any speech in this class, but I would consider memorizing just your introduction. If you are feeling a little bit nervous or even a little bit anxious about giving a speech, or when the time comes to give or record your speech, you're like, I don't know what to do. This is a great way to start. You're going to start off on a good foot. You know what you're talking about, and by the time you're done with your introduction, hopefully you've settled into your speech enough that you can continue on with more extemporaneous style speaking. So again, you don't have to memorize your whole speech, but consider memorizing your introduction, or at least the beginning of your introduction. That's going to help make sure that your speech intro is really clear and concise and short and sweet and all of those things that we want. So now that we've talked about the intro, let's jump to the end. Let's talk about the conclusion. So for our conclusions, just like our introduction, they have a purpose. They're there for a reason. So we use conclusions to create a sense of closure. We use it to review our speech, remind our audience what we were just talking about, and to have a strong ending, right? This is the last thing that they're going to hear, the last thing they're going to remember. So you want to make a lasting impression, really come off strong, confident, professional, all of those things. So here's what we need to include in our introduction. We need to signal to close, meaning that we need to typically use a word or a phrase that indicates that we're arriving at the end of our speech. We want to summarize our speech, at least our topic and what our main points were. And then we want to have a strong closing statement. So with the conclusion, it's a little bit different than the intro. The intro is really regimented. I want you to have those 4 things in that order, 7 sentences max, memorize it. It's pretty rigid. The conclusion can be a little bit flexible. You can make it work for you in the moment, what you need for your speech. So with these 3 things, you can spend as long or as little amount of time on them as you need, especially if you are aware of the timing. If you need to stretch it out a little bit, you can. If you need to make it really short because you're running out of time, you can as well. So in doing so, you can have like a 2-sentence conclusion. So signal to close. Now that I've gone over my topic and what my 3 main points are, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned a little bit more about my topic. And that totally works. That is a 10 out of 10 conclusion. It can be short and sweet. That's fine. If you want to go above and beyond, some tips that I have are to connect back to the introduction. That's a really clever way of creating a sense of closure and a sense of completeness. By referencing something that you have in your introduction, will let your audience know, okay, we've circled all the way back, and so now I know we're coming to an end. So if you tell a story as your attention getter, maybe you finish the story. If you have a quote, maybe you reference back to it. Lots of different ways, but try to connect it back to whatever you talked about in your intro. And then lastly, my final tip is to practice multiple versions. Practice a really short conclusion and practice a really long conclusion. So that way, in the moment, when it's time to give your speech, you have multiple options and you're comfortable with all of them. And you can kind of choose in the moment and decide what's going to work best for you. So thank you so much for listening. These are my tips and tricks and summary and overview of introductions and conclusions. Thanks all.